Alright, so let's do the review here on the Empire Resurrection Autococker. And, well, I guess it is about time that another company has come out with a mech autococker, okay? I think the last one that had come out was the 2008 ShockTech SFL, and that was a really good autococker, and then it's been 5 years since that, and I think, well, what came out before the SFL, like the WGP Trilogy series, I mean, that didn't really do too well, but you know, it's about time that a company has come out with a good autococker. Now, I remember one time I had a conversation a long time ago with Glenn Chon of Paintball Gateway, paintballgateway.com. And you guys remember a long time ago when WGP got bought out, they got all those parts. And I remember asking them, it's like, why don't you guys build an autococker? You know, you've got all these parts now. And I remember Glenn saying, he's like, it is such a pain in the ass to build an autococker, because if you're just missing one little part, the gun goes completely on hold. So if you're missing barbs, okay, or you're missing couplers, okay, the entire production line comes to a halt. I'm talking about the coupler between the rod here that goes to the trigger into the three-way. And he's like, you're just missing one little tiny part. The whole production line just comes to a halt, and you got to wait to get it machined and stuff like that. So it's hard for, especially in this day and age, for companies to make autocockers. And also, it's a risk. It really is a risk, because even though a lot of players, talk showing, oh yeah, I'd love to buy a new autococker. I'd love if a company had this, that, and the other. When it comes out, it doesn't exactly mean it's going to be a success, okay? Look at the NXE Journey, okay? Where they're blowing those out for like $40 a piece, when a year earlier they were selling for like $300 in the used ones. But anyway, it's about time that a company has come out with an autococker. Now, we saw, many years ago when Key bought, the rights to WGP, and then, it was kind of quiet for a little while, and then they cranked out this gun. Well, they cranked out the pump gun first, and a lot of people were like, take that and make it into an autococker, I'd buy it. So, and I was one of those people that said that, and they delivered, and they delivered really, really well. They came out with the Resurrection, and, this gun, I mean, shooting it and having fun with it, they really knocked this gun out of the park. I mean, it's got an adjustable, low pressure regulator, which is really nice. Remember some of the as we were getting into later series of WGP, they started coming with, like the Pro Stocks started coming with adjustable regulators, and that's really nice, because that adjusts how hard your bolt gets cocked and stuff like that. I mean, it's got a really nice it's not using a dovetail ASA, I believe it's what's called the TN. It's basically the Planet Eclipse style ASA, so if you fall wrong or something like that, you don't have to worry about shearing off your ASA off the bottom of your grip frame. It's got a real snappy trigger. It's got a nice trigger shoe on here. It's very smooth, wide base trigger shoe, nice thick trigger shoe, so it's comfortable when you're pulling. It's a mech gun, so every time you pull the trigger, you're going to be putting pressure on your finger. But it's got a nice smooth, wide trigger shoe. Feels really good. Everything about the gun just lines up really well. And probably one of the biggest selling things about this gun, obviously, is the clamping feed neck, okay? You don't have to go out and buy a VL200 to fit on it. Like 99% of the autocockers that are on the market, don't fit the loaders of today, because as the autocockers were getting phased out in like 2002, there wasn't that many high-end loaders that were coming out. There wasn't rotors, there wasn't spires, there wasn't Z2s and Prophecies, stuff like that. There wasn't Pinocchio. So what was around back then was this one. It was the Revolution. So, the ShockTech SFL had a clamping feed neck, did really well. This one's got a nice clamping feed neck on there. And the advantage of that is that you could just take whatever loader that you're using right now, you stick it on there, you don't have to worry about it falling off, you don't have to worry about getting adapters for it. And another thing that's really nice too is this is built for HPA, high pressure air. It's got the regulator on here, so that if you've already got an airball gun, or you've already got your gun set up, or you've already got your woods ball gun, or you got your HPA and your agitating loader on there, you can just take those right off, stick them on here, and you're ready to go play. But inside of the box, you got a nice box, nice presentation, barrel sock, full set of Allen keys, which is really nice. Now, it's kind of funny because it's got a humongous parts kit with like 15 parts in it. So that kind of cracked me up. It's got a little bit of extra three-way hose, couple extra screws, extra O-rings, three-way O-rings, a little bit of lube, come in handy. And it's got a barrel kit. And this is something kind of just want to, pick a little bit with the barrel kits is, I'm pretty sure companies can stop putting in the 695 barrel back, especially on a gun like an Autococker. I think it was even Machine Vapor they even redesigned their barrel kits after they were putting in like 695 barrel backs and stuff. I mean, just nobody uses those really. I mean, the paint just isn't that small anymore. But it comes with a 675, 680, 685, and 690. 675 is more like reball size. 680 is probably a little too tight. 685 is what I was using on the gun, and it worked really well. It seemed to get a little bit of a snug fit on most paint. 690, if you're getting some really swollen paint, then that'd be the way to go. But probably about the only thing was I think if they made their bore size maybe between 690 and below, and maybe threw in an extra one in there, maybe like a 687 and a 684. That would be pretty nice. But other than that, I mean, that's kind of splitting hairs on here. You get a 5-piece barrel back system that's going to fit everything from the most swollen, been sitting out in the box, out in the tool shed for the past month, swollen, huge paint, all the way down to a reball. Okay, so you're going to get a barrel backs that are going to fit everything. And if you really are meticulous about your paint, go get an Autococker, like the Super Freak kit or something like that, or get the stainless steel inserts or something like that, Autococker back in front, and you'll be good to go. So with these guns, we'll get into a little bit of maintenance on them. Autocockers are not really meant to be super high maintenance guns, okay? This isn't a gun like a spool valve gun where you got to take this thing apart after every single day of play. Wipe it down. I had a paintbrush here. You can use a paintbrush, which works really, really well for cleaning up around the pneumatics if you get shot in the pneumatics. A damp paintbrush works great. So you go to Home Depot, they've got those little wooden handled paintbrushes that you can get for like $1. Take it, run underneath the sink, wring it out really quick, and then wipe down your whole gun, and it'll look just as good as new after you're done. You wipe it down with a towel afterwards, but allow you to get into all those little cracks and stuff like that if you get shot in the pneumatics. But I guess maybe what I could do, I could take apart the regulator, that's kind of important, and then I guess maybe take out the striker, and that's about it. And then I'll bring the camera in a little closer, and we'll go through a little bit on timing, even though if you have questions on timing in Autococker, check out the Autococker Show of Death. But we'll bring the camera in a little bit closer, and we'll pick apart what we can. Okay, the first thing we're going to go over really quickly is timing. Now, I'm going to give you another tip with Autocockers, is that because you have to pull the trigger straight back, okay, having a long setup in regards to your tank is going to make the gun a lot more comfortable to shoot. Now, they sell these custom products, and I believe also MacDev I think also sells them. There's a couple companies that sell them, have these little tank extenders that just screw right into the back of them. And as a matter of fact, you see a lot of pro players using these too. I think Damage uses these. Custom product screws right into the back. It costs maybe like 20 bucks. But what this is going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to push your tank a little bit further back, so your hand's not so cocked at an angle here. It's more back like this. You can pull in line with how the natural bend of your hand. If you're like this trying to pull backwards, you're going to start short stroking your trigger. So by getting your tank a nice long setup is going to help you pull that trigger consistently every single time. Okay, now once again, rehashing the Autococker Show of Death. With an Autococker, when you go to time it, it's supposed to shoot first, then cock, okay? Shoot first, then cock. So what I usually do is I put my finger on one side of the trigger, I put my thumb on the other, and this allows me to pull the trigger, really slowly. I had to cock it then. So I'm gonna listen to what the gun does as I pull the trigger. Fires, then cocks. We'll do it one more time. It's gonna fire, then cock. So I'm pulling the trigger back. Okay, it fired. Then about a millimeter later, it should cock. There you go. That's how you time it. And then how you time it is going to be your firing point is going to be on the lug here on your striker. So the more you tighten it down, the further you have to pull the trigger back. The more you back it out, the more forward it'll shoot in the trigger pull. And same thing on the three-way. So as you adjust the three-way, let me see, if you tighten it, which on this you tighten it from the front. Right, let's see, if you tighten it, it's going to grab it more, so it's going to cock earlier. If you back it out, it's going to cock later. So you are going to have to kind of mess with that. This gun came timed just fine out of the box. Okay, it was actually a very conservative time in that it fired almost right away and didn't cock until the very back of the trigger pull. Now that's okay, that's okay. But when you get your gun, you want to mess with it a little bit and you want to tune it perfectly for your particular trigger style, that's how you're going to be able to adjust it. Adjusting the lug is going to adjust the fire point. Adjusting your three-way is going to adjust your cocking point. You want the gun to fire first, then cock. Okay. And with that being said, you see this nice long setup here, allows me to, my finger on my hand, my hand's not, like this with a super short take. It's a nice long setup, allows me to pull back with that trigger every single time. Okay. All right, the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to weigh the gun. There we go. Let's see, pounds and ounces. Let's see here. Okay, so it looks like we're about 2 pounds, 7 ounces. Yeah, 2 pounds, 7 ounces. Not a heavy gun by any stretch of the imagination. So, it's nice. It's not a heavy gun. It feels light in your hands and everything. So let's get into a couple basic things here to take apart. Like I said, Autocockers, they're not guns that you've got to tear apart every single weekend. I mean, shoot it, put 10, 15 cases through it. Put 10, 15 cases through, maybe take it apart and clean out your three-way. If you've gotten a ton of dirt into the gun, then maybe you take out your striker, but it's not these are definitely not high maintenance guns. You can actually see in the BST, a lot of people have guns that that they're selling from 10 years ago. They've never even taken apart. So we're gonna pull the grip frame off really quick. Now, when you pull the grip frame off, usually what I like to do, you got to be really careful because it is attached to the three-way. Okay, you've got a shaft that goes through the grip frame attached to the three-way, and you don't just want to just rip this thing off. Okay, you can damage the O-rings, you can damage your three-way. So what I like to do is I like to just rotate it gently and then pull it away, and there you go. Because there is tabs inside here. Now, these little metal studs that are holding the grip frame onto the body. So you don't want to sit here and just wrench that thing off. It's a bad idea. Okay, now we'll just gently slide out the three-way. Okay, and you can see that there. That's just the three-way O-rings. That's what diverts. It comes from the pressure. The air pressure obviously comes into the high pressure regulator first, gets regulated down to maybe about 300 psi. Then it goes into the low pressure reg, which I believe anywhere between 60 to 80 psi. Once it's in there, that's what diverts it to the front and back of the ram to cock the gun. So it goes forward, goes back as the three-way gets moved. Now, I will tell you that when I did get this gun, the gun did leak a little bit. Okay, that's not a big deal. When you're dealing with an autococker, this is not a big deal. It did leak a little bit, so what I did was I replaced the O-rings, and on the three-way, I didn't use the ones in the kit. I used the ones that I had from O-Ring Monkey, and I put them in there and the leak went away. Now, you got to be really careful when you're replacing O-rings on the three-way, because if they're too small, it leaks. If they're too big, your three-way drags. So this is a common tuning thing with autocockers. You want them just loose enough to where the three-way slides back and forth really loosely but doesn't leak. So it's not anything that I'm really that upset about or anything, but it was something that I did notice that my three-way did leak a little bit. And once I replaced the O-rings, I found some other O-rings looked exactly alike. I believe they were just slightly thicker. I put them in there, no problems at all. And one other thing that I'll show you here, and this is something that could be a potential upgrade down the road, or just something else to poke at about the gun was, I did notice a little bit of catchiness with the trigger pull. Okay, so I've shot autocockers for a long time. Autococker versus Automag, I always went autococker, even in the 90s. But I did notice that when you're pulling the trigger on these, I did feel a little bit of catchiness. And when I saw the lug, it made sense. And I'll show you what I mean by that. A lot of the higher end autocockers made back in the day had rounded lugs, polished lugs. You used to hear guys, guys in the autococker, autococker owners talking about how they'd sit all night and polish the lug. They weren't talking about giving it a yank. They were just talking about this part right here. Okay, now when you're pulling the lug out, the thing you got to understand is there's a locking screw on the back of it. So you need to loosen up the locking screw before you back out the lug. But I'll tighten this up a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about here. Okay, you see how that's square? And you see how that's square and stuff like that. They make upgrade parts. I'm not sure if it would fit this one or not, but a lot of the high performance autocockers made back in the day, that used to be a nice smooth piece of aluminum or like steel, and that way the trigger sear would just gently glide right off of that instead of kind of sticking and then snapping off. So didn't affect the gun performance any, but could be a potential upgrade down the road. Getting a nice polished lug and putting it on there, it's going to improve your trigger stroke a little bit. Now that we have the bolt out here, this is something else you want to talk about with this new Resurrection autococker that is really nice. You've got dual detents, okay, so I don't know if you can see through there or not, but you've got dual detents. You got detents on both sides. That's great because when you're using the high performance loaders of today, they put a lot of pressure on the ball stack. If you've got a gun like this is a Bell Cells autococker, it's only got one little one detent on the side. You do have the potential of possibly double feeding with a loader that might be turned up really high, especially some of the halos where you've got the spring catch cup and stuff like that. With only one detent, you are going to double feed occasionally with it. With this, it's got dual detents, and most importantly, it's also got grooves cut out on the bolt. So you're not going to beat your detents up. When your bolt is in the forward position, the detents are just resting inside of the grooves here, so they're not getting bent forward. So the detents on this are going to last forever, just because there's nothing really beating them up other than just this one little O-ring that goes over the top of them. So that's really nice. We're going to see if we can get into this. Now, to take apart the piston, you're gonna have to be extremely careful, or to take apart the regulator to get the piston out, you need to be extremely careful when you take this apart, okay? And I definitely recommend using either some sort of jar openers or some sort of piece of rubber that allows you to grab both parts of this in order to unscrew it if yours is on there really tight. This one wasn't on there that tight, but who knows, every gun can be assembled a little bit differently. Okay. This comes out, so basically you'll be able to look at your regulator and you'll see a crease here. You need to grab this from the top and then grab this from the bottom somehow and then unscrew it. Now what we're going to do here is let's go ahead and pull out the piston, see if that comes out. There it goes. And also take very good note of how the washers are orientated, okay? The washers on here, it's a lot like the die regulators. Where you've got those, I believe they're called Bellevue washers, and basically the bottom one cups towards the bottom, the top one cups towards the top, and all the other ones are like this. Okay, so you've got three. Let me see, I can probably draw it out really quick. This is just in case you take apart your regulator and all the washers go flying somewhere. Okay, so you've got your piston. This is your piston. You've got your top one goes like this. Your bottom one goes like this, and then all your other ones go like that. Okay. So hopefully if you take apart your regulator and your washers go flying everywhere, that's all. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got 7 washers, 8 washers in here, including the back one. So, all right. Now what we're going to do is just take a, I get these on eBay. They're wooden dowel toothpicks, cotton tipped applicators, and usually just wipe down the inside really quick. And then you can take your favorite lube. They've got some lube already included in the kit, so you can use that. I usually like to pre-lube the inside of the regulator. Wipe down the piston. Put lots of lube on the piston. And then upside down, very gently slide this back into place. There it goes, all the way down. Okay. And we can go ahead and put the top back on here. Clean up this sleeve a little bit. Screw in the bottom. And we're good to go. So if you ever need to get out the velocity adjusting nut, you are going to need a pair of snap ring pliers to get in there and pull that out, and then you can back that out. But that's something that most of the time you don't have to touch for at least, you know, like 60 cases minimum. So let's go ahead and start putting this. And we're just tightening down the screws here on the grip frame. And something else I'll talk about really quickly while I'm tightening this down is they did something with the ram shaft that was just brilliant. If you remember, if you had autocockers in the past, you might remember a lot of times, anytime you had to change if you ever broke your cocking rod, or you ever had an issue with it, or you needed to change the back block or something, if something happened to it, what they did here was really nice. They left a little bit of extra material here at the very end of the ram shaft that allows you to grip that with a tool. Now, I'd probably figure out what exactly that's probably like a 2 or 3 millimeter sized. Basically you need like a 2 or 3 millimeter sized wrench to get that off. But the neat thing is that they made that, little nice piece of machining there. So if you ever needed to change this for whatever reason, I don't know why, or maybe you wanted to change your sled, or you wanted to go to a different gun configuration or something, you just grip that with a small tool, and then you'd be able to unscrew that. Actually, one of my turnbuckle wrenches for one of my RC cars actually fit on there perfectly, but there's no need to change that. But that is really nice that they did that to where you're able to unscrew this without damaging your ram. A lot of times if you had to try to grab that with needle nose pliers and you tried to twist it, it would just scratch it all up, and then it would break it would end up damaging the front O-ring on that ram. But don't need to do that with this gun. Okay, now next thing we'll do here is let's go ahead and put the striker back in there. So I'm curious to see if any aftermarket lugs fit on here, because that would improve the trigger pull just a little bit. Now this is splitting hairs, okay? This is, really, really splitting hairs, because it's not that it feels bad, but a nice polished rounded lug would definitely feel a little bit better. Okay, we'll go ahead and tighten this up a little bit. Now I'm going to have to, because I took the lug out, I am going to have to re-chrono the gun, and I'm also going to have to time the gun. So it's it's a lot of work to take out one little slug of aluminum that isn't really even going to get dirty that often. So I'm going to have to go back and re-chrono the gun, and I'm going to have to re-time the gun. It doesn't take very long. All right. I'm going to go ahead and put the tank back on here, and I'll actually time the lug really quick while we're on the. Let's go ahead and put the bolt in so we don't blow our eardrums out. There we go. All right, let's see where, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look and see where it fires. Ah, that's actually really close to where it was at before. And that was just pure luck. Yeah, that's... I didn't mean to do that, but yep, I actually ended up almost nailing it right on the head. As a matter of fact, I'm probably going to I'm going to make the firing point go a little bit further forward, just a smidge. Let me put the hammer forward. Okay. So I'm gonna just back it out just a smidge. There we go. Now let's see what that does. Come on now. There it goes. Yeah, all right, that's better. That's a lot better. Sometimes for me, I don't like to really hear when I'm timing the gun. I don't really like to hear any hissing on the three-way when the gun fires. So I like to hear a nice, quiet fire, and then like a half a millimeter later is when I like to hear the hiss on the three-way. So for me, that just works great. Okay, now that we're done with that, let's go ahead and take it out and do an efficiency test and then come back for the conclusion. All right, we're about to do the efficiency test on the Empire Resurrection. And as you can see here, we're sitting at about 44, so yeah, 44.22 on the gauge. And let's go ahead and take a tank temperature reading. Yeah, it's getting hot today. 117, almost, yeah, 117 degrees. Between 290 and 300 on the reg, on the chronograph. And this isn't going to be very fun. 11 and a half pods. Oh, that sucked. Thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap up the conclusion on the Empire Resurrection Autococker. Empire did a great job on this gun. They really did. I've been an Autococker fan for years. There's a lot of Autocockers that were made that I wasn't too big of a wasn't big a fan of, but especially for something being made right now in 2013, you're talking 10 plus years, maybe even more, since the Autocockers' heyday. For Empire to come out with a product that's this good is just awesome. I mean, and definitely if you've ever been thinking about getting an Autococker or or something, this is a great place to start. Okay, it's got the warranty as opposed to buying a used one. They're using top of the line components all throughout this entire gun. Good regulator. It's got the T-mount ASA. It's an inline ASA, so you don't have to worry about hoses hitting you on the side or coming out the side, or any hard on-off knobs. Like the old WGP on-off knobs are really hard to turn. I mean, it's a nice flip lever ASA, and it degasses, which is really nice. You've got your adjustments on the low pressure regulator on how hard the gun cocks. They really did a good job. I mean, like I said, probably two things. If I was really gonna split hairs on this gun, two things would be, obviously I would like to see a polished lug on this. I think that would really improve the trigger pull. It would make the trigger pull a lot smoother and stuff like that. It's not a big deal how it is right now, but you definitely, if you've shot premium Autocockers, like such as like this is a Bell Cells Autococker. If you've shot premium Autocockers in the past, Westwood, I'm trying to think some of the other premium Autocockers, that were out there, you would definitely know the difference between a polished lug and a standard lug. It's the polished lug just, your trigger just blow, the sear just flies right off of it, but it's not that big of a deal. The other thing I'd probably do is I would like to see the backs on the Autococker. I'm thankful that they gave us different Autococker backs. That's really nice. Okay, you get 5 different backs, everything that'll fit a reball all the way up to super swollen paint. But for an Autococker, I would like to see the backs extend out a little bit past the pneumatics. It makes it a little bit easier to grab. So, it is, most of the time, I think most people, you're going to be like me, you put the 685 back on here, not going to have to worry about it. But if you need to unscrew the barrel, if your tip starts unscrewing from the back, sometimes that can be a little bit tough, trying to get some traction on here, especially if your gun's completely coated in paint, to unscrew the barrel back without, getting in and your hand hitting the pneumatics. But other than that, this is a very, very good shooting Autococker. It's one of the better shooting Autocockers I've ever had. I love the clamping feed neck. There really is it's just a great shooting gun. They really did a really good job on this. And probably my biggest upgrade that I would recommend on it would be just that little CP reg extender that you can get for like 20 bucks for the back of your tank. And you'll see what I'm talking about here, because you're pulling the trigger straight back. It gives you a little more distance. The gun is a little bit more distance away from your shoulder, so that it's easier for you to pull that trigger straight back every single time. But you saw the efficiency test. I mean, it was agonizing to do that efficiency test, but you saw once you get this gun timed properly, I just blew through, I can't remember, 11, 12 pods and no brakes, no problems whatsoever. The gun just ripping through it. So they really did an amazing job with this trigger. The trigger on the Resurrection Autococker feels even better than the trigger that's on my Bell Cells Autococker. So, it really is a great feeling trigger. And I don't know what else to say about it. I mean, is it a little bit expensive? $550? Not really, not really. Premium Autocockers back in the Autococker heyday, late 90s and early 2000s, were stuff like $1,400. So, and then they didn't even come with a barrel kit. And so to get a premium Autococker such as this for mid $500, I mean that's a really good deal. I mean, you're talking about phenomenally built mechanical marker. So we did a little bit of adjustments on it, to make it suit your personal playing style, how you like to set your trigger up. But once you mess with it a little bit and you understand how it works, make sure the gun fires before it cocks. And once you set your little sweet spot on your trigger pull, you're going to be ripping with this gun. So it's really accurate. It's got that Autococker sound. I really like it. Some people may like the Autococker to have a back block. You know, I mean, it's kind of, you know, maybe on the next one, maybe it'll have a back block. That'd be kind of cool to get that back block going back and forth. It's one of the signature things about the Autococker is seeing that back block slam back and forth and hitting your mask. But honestly, as it's set up right now, I mean, this is what, you know, while the back block is kind of cool in terms of the nostalgia, you know, having the back block going back and forth, in terms of performance, this configuration right here, I don't know if you want to call this half block or, you know, I don't know exactly what the terminology is for having the slotted hammer, but I believe it's a half block. But this is what, if you were going to go and compete with it, this is what you would want. Something that's not going to hit the back of your mask. You don't have to worry about your bolt shooting back over your head. You don't have to worry about the cocking rod coming loose or any of the other nonsense you got to deal with the you know, having a back block. Another tip, setting it up. The way how I prefer usually to set my Autocockers up, I tend to tighten down the IVG a little bit. You know, I tighten this down just a little bit more. I get the gun to shoot at about 315, you know, 310 feet per second, and then I back down the pressure from the regulator. So I get the gun to 310, back down the pressure on the regulator. This way I only have to carry out one Allen key out to the chrono station. I know it's not sweet spotted, I don't care. But I tend to like to have that range of adjustment from 310 all the way down. That way if the paint is a little bit stickier or something, I need to adjust my velocity up or adjust it down, I don't have to mess with the back block, just carrying out two separate Allen keys. I just raise or lower the pressure on the high pressure reg, and I've got my full chrono adjustment, you know, from all the way from 0 all the way up to 310 feet per second. I usually back it down to about 285 and it shoots great. So that's about it. If you've been thinking about getting an Autococker, you want to treat yourself, go get the Resurrection Autococker. I can tell you Empire did an amazing job on this. This is a great shooting mech gun. Thank you.